Taxation to order. According to the agenda, the first item of business is the selection of a chairman. Mr. Wyden.
Chairman Neal, I would move the selection of the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, to be chairman of the Joint Committee on Taxation for the first session of the 117th Congress. Is there a second?
Second.
Those opposed?
All those, okay. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. The next order of business is to appoint a vice chair for the first session of the 117th Congress. I would move the selection of the senator from Oregon, Mr. Wyden, to be vice chairman of the Joint Committee on Taxation for the first session of the next session of the 117th Congress. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. If there are no objections, we will now move to appoint the chair and vice chair for the second session of the 117th Congress. Let me nominate Senator Wyden as chairman for the second session of this Congress without objection. Senator Wyden will be the chairman for the second session.
And I nominate Mr. Neal for vice chair during the second session of this Congress. Without objection, Mr. Neal will be vice chair for the second session of the 117th Congress.
Now, let us review the Joint Committee on Taxation Operations and Appropriations request for fiscal 2022. Mr. Barthol, will you briefly review the materials that the staff has prepared for us?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. You were provided with some background materials that you may have before you. Nearly 1 year since the Joint Committee staff shifted to an entirely remote operation in the face of the pandemic, we hope that we've been able to provide the support to members that the members expect from this staff. And I'll briefly highlight a few of the items in the materials that we provided. I'll call to note Attachment C. Attachment C describes our website, which we implemented a major upgrade to the external website to significantly improve the search capability available to Hill staff as well as the public at large. The website's the repository of all the committee's public documents. And if you look at the materials there, you'll find that it's no surprise that among the most viewed documents were related to the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, the CARES Act, and the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, all passed last year. Attachment D reports that revenue requests made upon the staff continue to exceed 2,000 annually. And one thing I'd like to highlight about our revenue estimating process, you can see in attachment F, there I report my colleagues' efforts to explain our modeling and to get valuable feedback from outside experts regarding this modeling. Attachment Attachment G reports that the staff has reviewed over 400 tentative large refunds annually as required by the Internal Revenue Code. Our review and suggestions made to the IRS have led the IRS to make adjustments that ultimately saved taxpayers over $200 million during the 116th Congress. Some members in the past have asked about the length of our review and our review process. And in attachment G, there's data that shows that more than 80% of the cases that we receive to review from the IRS are closed within 30 days of our receipt. That concludes my overview of the highlights. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the members might have.
Are there any questions? Are those seeking recognition? Anybody seeking recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I would seek recognition.
Mr. Wyden.
Mr. Chairman and colleagues, I'm going to be very brief, and I just want to take a minute and comment on the extraordinary professionalism we have seen from the Joint Tax Committee and highlight the fact that over the last few weeks, they have basically been working around the clock. I mean, I just saw them working at all hours of the day and night. They were providing technical advice. They helped us with drafting. They produced a revenue estimate upon a revenue estimate upon a revenue estimate. And they just, under great pressure and at all hours of the day and night, continued their exceptional professionalism. And to Tom Barthold and his whole team, as is always the case, there was great support from both sides of the aisle for your professional and nonpartisan approach. I think we would all agree JCT serves our committees well. It serves the country well. And I think it would be fair to say to Mr. Barthold today, what I have just offered up is a widely shared view in the United States Senate. And I can see my colleagues smiling and nodding. And I hope you've had a chance to get a little sleep over the last few days, because I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of questions about exactly the details of this important piece of legislation. And we thank you again for your continued work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me say as well that to just build upon what Ron just said, the Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, we adhere to facts. We're driven by facts. And the American people at this juncture have a great appetite for facts. So let me applaud Tom and the staff as well for that trusted advice that they give to us.
Mr. Chairman, I would just weigh in and echo a very big thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you, Chairman, and to Chairman Wyden as well, all the members. So I echo your thoughts about Tom Barthold and this team. It's unbelievable what they performed for us. We saw this as they were actually staffing the House and Senate throughout Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But since then, certainly during the pandemic, it's really been, I think, a remarkable challenge for joint tax. They've got an amazing staff of lawyers and accountants. We rely upon them, and they've got, in my view, a well-deserved record of professionalism and independence, and that's really key. Other than Tom Barthold's misguided loyalty of baseball teams, I think he does, a tremendous job. But I do want to make a point here, Chairman Neal. So I think we need to do more to help joint tax accomplish their work. You may recall several years ago, we began trying to upgrade the funding for the IT work, both the data process and the system security. But those costs are still growing faster than the 2% increase that has been requested. I think they need more, frankly, as these requests continue to grow through this session as well, as we know it will. I think we also, if you may recall, provided some more flexibility for staff hiring. I think it helped them, but I think we ought to consider and hear from Tom either today or at some point about what more can we do. Their recruitment is tough. You know what I mean? They get paid plenty to go elsewhere, but we need them on joint tax, frankly. And so whatever we can do there, I think we could help. And finally, joint tax has worked beautifully with us on the technical corrections from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Some of those fixes have been made and passed into law. We still have a number of them that are punctuation. Some of them are grammatical issues. Some are just easy clarifications. There's no cost to this, but I think from a standpoint of clarity, it's important to do this. I know under the Reagan reforms, the technical corrections are about 3 times larger than they were under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Both parties came together, worked through those issues, and got those done. I really think that's important. We do that this year, if possible. So I wanted to raise those issues, Chairman, with the committee.
Thanks, Kev. Is there Tom, do you want to speak to that, or do you want to have time to develop an answer?
Mr. Chairman, our request is detailed at tab H in the materials. And as Mr. Brady noted, we seek a 2% funding increase. It is true that our IT expenses, both for hardware and software to process the increasingly sophisticated models that my colleagues create in our revenue estimating process, those costs are growing faster than the 2% target inflation that the Fed would like to achieve. And the same is true for security of our systems. I also do want to thank the members for their support in moderately relaxing the limitations on staff salaries that permitted me to give some of our valued senior staffers their first pay adjustment in several years in some cases. But it does remain a challenge to hire, both in terms of economics, legal, and accounting. We are often at a pay disadvantage, even compared to some other government agencies around the DC area.
Sound point. Is there anybody else that would like to be recognized? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I've so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. The purpose of this session having been accomplished, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you all.
Thanks, Tom.